Welcome to the next installment in my video lecture series in economics. And in this particular video lecture relates to urban economics, particularly chapter 2 of our textbook and figure 2.1, the determination of the market area of a factory city. So if we want to take a look at the area of a factory, particularly the market area, there's a couple of things we need to take a look at. In particular, one of the things that you should note is, let's take a look at the individuals who are within close proximity of this particular shirt factory. Those individuals are going to be paying the price, the factory price for that shirt. All right, they're not really incurring any transportation costs to get there, and the opportunity or the cost of their time is quite small. So for the individuals in the immediate vicinity of the factory, let's say like right across the street, those individuals face that price at the factory because the transportation costs are zero and the opportunity cost is minimal of going shopping and buying that shirt. The other thing that you have to take into consideration is how much is it going to cost to produce that shirt at home, and I'm referring to that as P sub HMS, meaning the homemade shirt. So by price, I'm also referring to it. What is it going to cost the household to produce that particular shirt at home? So the individuals, if they're rational, are going to purchase shirts at the factory if it's cheaper for them than it is to produce at home. So from that, I want you to realize that as individuals live further and further away from the factory, let's say they're a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, etc., that you realize that the price of the shirt is going up. All right, realize that the price, the tag on the shirt is not going up, but the total cost of buying that shirt is going to go up because the individuals, let's say, who are 6 miles away are going to incur transportation costs in order to get to the factory and back, and they have a higher opportunity cost of their time. For example, you can walk, if somebody, let's say, walks 3 miles in 30 minutes, if they're 3 miles away from the factory, even if they don't use public transportation, it's going to take 2 hours of time cost in order to walk to the factory and purchase it. So realize that consumers factor all of this in. The price of the shirt, any transportation costs, the opportunity cost. So realize that this is why we get that V shape in the textbook, where as the further away you move from the factory, the higher the price of the shirt. And that keeps going up and up and up until we get to the point where the price of the shirt, which includes the price of the shirt, transportation costs, opportunity costs at the factory, is equivalent to the price or the cost of a homemade shirt. So in this particular example, you can see that for all the consumers who live within 8 miles of the factory, for our purposes here, it's just a two-dimensional graph, so we're talking to the left and to the right. So on 8 miles either side of the factory, or if you do this as overhead, an 8-mile radius around the factory, those individuals in those households, it's cheaper for them to incur the transportation costs and the opportunity costs and physically go to the factory and buy the shirt than it is to produce the shirt at home. Once we get to the 8-mile point, that is the point where the cost of a homemade shirt is equivalent to the price or the cost of the shirt. And remember, when I say the price of the shirt, I'm also including transportation costs for the consumer and the opportunity cost. So at that point, the consumer would be indifferent between making the shirt at home and going to the factory. But once we start moving past that, if we start moving into an area where it's 9 miles, 10 miles, 11 miles, it's cheaper for those individuals to make the shirt at home. So they will engage in home production for any individuals who are more than 8 miles from the factory. And all the individuals who are within that 8-mile radius, it is cheaper for them to consume to go to the factory and purchase the shirts at the factory. So you can see here at the bottom, that's why it's being distinguished as the market for the factory, because those are the individuals who it is cheaper to purchase the shirt at the factory than it is to produce that shirt at home. So that 8-mile radius defines the market for the factory. It's the reasonable area where it's cheaper for individuals to produce that shirt at the factory than it is to produce it at home.